Welcome back, folks. Today we have What If Naruto Was Reincarnated into Rimuru after 4th Shinobi War? Huge thanks to Ryu-Shu1412 for this dope story. This is going to be a 4-part story for now because it's still ongoing. I will continue uploading next parts as the story progresses. Like and sub if you haven't already, and let's dive in. Here is the synopsis. After losing everything he held dear, Naruto fought the rabbit goddess Kaguya with nothing left to protect. Using the full power of the Sage of Six Paths and Kurama's chakra, he managed to defeat her, but was subsequently thrown into a strange new world. There, Rimuru Tempest, a reincarnated slime, discovered the injured Naruto in the great forest of Jura after sensing a strong burst of magic. Rimuru decided to heal Naruto's wounds and brought him to his village to recover.
Chapter 1. Darkness. Everything is dark around me. I remember that I was fighting Kaguya all by my own since that bitch has wiped out all of the shinobi allies with her jutsu, resulting only original Team 7 left, but they also drop one by one after being exterminated by Zetsu army or from chakra depletion. After all, they were in the war for almost 5 years. Of course, they would exhausted themselves until to their death. I was preparing the next jutsu that was based with Sage of Six Path power and the mix of Kurama's full power, hoping that it would bring Kaguya down. Fortunately, it did, but it came with consequence when our power collided together, resulting for the dimension to crack, and the last thing I know, I was being pulled into some great force and lost into unconsciousness. Am I dead? Confirmation. The transportation of individual Uzumaki Naruto into another world would be preceded. The chakra and skills the individual possessed would come along. What's that voice? Transportation? Another world? Am I really going to die that I can hurt things? They say dying is normal, natural, something that shouldn't be feared because it was inevitable. Naruto wasn't denying that. No, I wasn't scared. But the only thing that make me regret is that I can't save everyone. I wish that I can turn back time to make things right. Makes things better. Confirmed. Adding unique skill, time recap, has required. But even if I can turn back in time, the power I have is limited with my body and mortality. Even I push my body the best as I could, it would be time that it would break. Why didn't I accept Kurama's offer to turn me into Kitsune Hanyu before? Alright? Because I don't want to lose my humanity. Confirmed. The individual Uzumaki Naruto will be evolved into Kyuubi Kitsune as was requested. Having knowledge and information also will be great too. That way I can know what I am facing with either person or power they're possessed. It's also great if I can see someone intention toward me. Confirmed. Adding unique skill, Grand Scholar, has required. Confirmed. Adding extra skill, Truth Seeker, has required. Though, it would be a waste if my naivety get into me. After all, my emotions always got in the way of seeing things right in front of me. They're unimportant in surviving. It was something I learned during the war. I'd have to get a better hold on them next time. Confirmed. Adding unique trait, Emotional Control, has required. Damn this headache. Now I keep hearing voice in my head. It's saying something about adding details. Does this mean it's creating a new body? But wait, the first thing it said that I was being transported, so it won't be that. Though, I heard about evolving me into Kyuubi, which that would be cool. I hope I get something like old Sage power with Kurama chakra and mix. That would be badass and something I don't want to restrain in. Confirmed. Adding extra skill, Sage of Six Path, has required. Confirmed. Adding extra skill, Kyuubi mode, has required. Wow, it's really give what I wished. Let's see what else I wanted from my skill. Would be okay if I ask a fast regenerated skill? That would be useful when I got myself into fatal injuries. Confirmed. Adding extra skill, fast regeneration, has required. Notice, you have 2 more quest skill to be added. Oh, it's his limit. Now, I need to think more carefully. How about unlimited power source breeder? And the last one would be all elemental. I want to be close with nature, so it would be easy for me to use Senjutsu. Confirmed. Adding unique skill, Mana Breeder, has required. Confirmed. Adding extra skill, Nature Master, has required. And just like that, the last survivor of Shinobi world being thrown into another world. Just after Rimuru listened to his subordinate reporting their current process of their new developed village, when he felt an anomalous power being released from the west side of the Jura forest. Deciding to check what that power is, just make sure there wasn't anything hostile that would come into the village. When he get there, he saw an unconscious person under the tree. It was a male human being with spiky blonde hair and 3 whiskers like marks on his face. Correction, this individual is not a human. The great sage said that this person is not human? What does she mean? Oh, now when he looked at the stranger more closely, there was an animal ears on top of his head. It was big, triangle golden ears with red tips on it that looked like a fox ears. On top of that, 9 long fluffy golden tails connected on his back. Such a beautiful creature. Is he the monster that live in this great forest of 𝐤𝐢𝐳? Answer: unknown, but there is the possibility that the individual were from the lycanthrope tribe. The individual also have a great power in his possession. His mana is 10th time stronger than individual Rimuru. Please act with caution. Really? For the great sage, tell him to be caution. This person is probably quite strong. Though, even she said that, he glanced back at the man again. The male being was not in a good condition. His right arm have a fatal burn injury, a deep gash on his left chest through his stomach. His shirt and face was dirted by blood, and seemingly would die if no help came to him. Knowing he can't leave the man in his deathbed, the slime splashed his cure potion on the man and watched all the injuries closed itself successfully. He was about to carry the man to his village when he saw the man were about to stirred. When the man opened his eyes to consciousness, Rimuru stared at those brilliant ocean blue of his eyes, so attractive and beautiful. Rimuru shook his head when he realized he was staring. What the heck, Rimuru? Why you stared at him like that? Thought the slime. When look at the man again, he saw that the blonde has sat up and rubbed his head with a groan. Where am I? The man asked with his hoarse voice yet seductively and looked around his surrounding. Didn't notice Rimuru by his feet in his slime form. A forest? I don't think this is the land of fire's forest. The natural energy in here is quite different, mumbled the man at himself. Rimuru arched his slime brow in interest when the man said the land name. The land of fire? Where is that? Is there a place named the land of fire? Answer: unknown. There wasn't any place named the land of fire in this world. Rimuru internally tilted his head in confusion. There wasn't any place named the land of fire? Then where this guy came from? Meanwhile, while Rimuru was deep in thought, Naruto tried to rack his brain to remember what happened after the fight he had with Kaguya. 2 powerful jutsu collide together, resulting for the dimension crack, and he was pulled into it. Heard some strange feminine voice telling something about transportation, skills, in another world. So he was in another world, huh? Well, you don't have a choice anyway. You don't have anything that waiting for him in his previous world anymore. Everything's gone. He lost everything. Even he managed to defeat Kaguya. The world has become a wasted land, and he was only survivor in that world. It would be a matter of time that he will snap in insanity because of guilt, grief, and loneliness. Looking around at his surrounding again, he was wondering where he is. Answer: right now, individual Uzumaki Naruto was in the forest named the Great Forest of 𝐤𝐢𝐳, where is the home of all type monster living here. Naruto flinched, wondering where this voice came from and who are they. They voice sound almost similar with Kurama. Notice, this is individual unique skill, Grand Scholar. The skill would provided an assistant any information or request the individual seeking for. Oh, I see. Is this the power system of this world? Answer: yes. The individual was transported into world through the black hole, and the individual present has been notified and acknowledged by the voice of world, the manager of this world. What about the energy power this world have? And what are they called? Are they similar with chakra? Notify. The energy in this world called 𝐫𝐞𝐻, or it's also called magical energy, where it's the type of energy or special type of energetic material, apart from the regular physical energy that permeates throughout the world. Naruto hummed, digesting all of the information diligently, understanding what the voice tried to explain to him. So, 𝐫𝐞𝐻's work almost the same as chakra, but less conflict ion. But the question is, which energy that hold a lot of power? Answer: both of 𝐫𝐞𝐻's and chakra hold a lot of power. Hypothetically, both of it was equal with each other. If you're saying like that, then I don't have anything to deny or refuse your claims. Is there anything else that I need to look into? Answer: yes. You are now half human, half demon Kitsune. The 𝐵𝐵 no Yoko, Kurama's chakra and spirituality has been blended in your being. So now, you are his successor of the power and knowledge he held before. I see. Looking at myself, I've noticed that I have grown a fox ears and 9 golden tails with red tips on it. Kurama has sacrificed himself to give me his full power to help me defeat 𝐫𝐞𝐦𝐴 and 𝐵𝐷𝐷, and also leaving me in guilt and grief after he's gone. But I can feel it, his partner warm energy that blanketed him like a comforting cocoon reminded me when Kurama gave a comfort after the death of my team. I can still feel his connection through his chakra, and that's enough to assure me that Kurama is still with me, even his consciousness wasn't. It's also comforting when the voice that we're talking using his partner voice. Report. There is a presence under your feet. Presence? Is there someone with me? Suddenly, he felt something on the ground near his feet and looked down to see a bluish round thing laying there. When he tried to poke it, it became jiggly like jelly. What is this thing? Jelly? No. Slime? Question him. Still keep poking it. Report. A unique slime monster that have its own consciousness. It also have Hobgoblin and Goblinas and Tempest Wolf under its command. Naruto hummed in interest to slime. The lowest food chain were commanding others that above him. Moreover, he can feel it. The power this slime radiated on it is sure are powerful. Back to Rimuru. He finally snapped back from his thought when he felt the poking he got from the stranger in front of him. Looking up, Rimuru saw that the man were looking at him with interest. Hello. He greet the man in nervousness, since he don't know what this man intention, or he is bad person or not. You could talk? Hello. Greet the man back nicely. Rimuru internally sighed in relief, glad that the person wasn't hostile toward a mere slime. Now then, since the man is polite enough to greet him, he should ask about the man's previous condition and how he got into a bad shape. Are you okay? Rimuru asked hesitantly. He watched the man tilted his head in confusion, but the way his fox ears twitched to the side following the move of his head make Rimuru internally cooed at the adorable sight that he thought he never see before coming into this world. I find you badly hurt and heal you, but I don't know if I miss another injury that I didn't see. Explain him simply. The man blinked after he said that and started to check his body to inspect his already non-existent injuries. Oh, you're right. I'm sure my bloodline would take a few hours for me to heal, but your assistance has fastened the process. Thank you, say the man with sincere yet charming smile, making Rimuru blush in bashfulness. He waved his slime hands. No. I just do something people always do, so don't mention it. The man nodded with a smile. Still, thank you. You saved my life. Oh, that's right. I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto. It was nice to meet you, my savior. My savior? It's true that I saved his life, but you don't have to call me that. But more importantly, this person name? Sound like Japanese. You don't have to call me that. My name is Rimuru. Rimuru Tempest. It was nice to meet you too, Naruto-san. State the slime sheepishly. Naruto-san smiled warmly at Rimuru. You too. I hope we can get along, Rimuru, said him neutrally. Chapter 2. So after the two introducing each other, Rimuru decided to ask the question he's curious about. So, Naruto-san, how did you get into that bad shape? Did you was fighting someone before you came here? Asked him nonchalantly. He knew that the topic probably quite sensitive to Naruto, but his curiosity get the better of him. And he hid his flinch when he saw Naruto smile sadly. My story is a bit unbelievable actually. I don't know if you believe me or not, say the blonde softly. Rimuru knitted his brow and waved his hand. It's okay. I'm sure I can take it. But I won't force you if you don't want to tell me, said him in assurance. Naruto smiled at the slime in soft gratitude. Thank you for understanding, Rimuru. The slime nodded and waited for the blonde to tell him his story. Naruto smiled sadly at him again and then turned his gaze at the blue sky. You see, Rimuru, I'm not the people from this world, he stated finally. Rimuru's eyes widened in shock. Didn't expect to know that Naruto also Otherworlder too, like him and Shizu. Wait, so you are an Otherworlder? The slime stayed stunned. Naruto tilted his head in wonder. Otherworlder, questioned him in his mind. Report. Otherworlder are an individual that was from another world and has accidentally crossed to this world. The Grand Scholar explained to the confused Naruto, having never heard of that word before. Naruto internally hummed at the information that was given and thanks the Grand Scholar for the information. His gaze then back to the slime. There are Otherworlder in this world? Rimuru nodded and tell Naruto about the Otherworlder. the humans that came to the central world from other worlds, and how they managed to land into this world. There are 3 types of otherworlder in this world: stray, reincarnation, and summoned. The most common type of otherworlder is summoned that brought through summoning rituals. This particular otherworlder was summoned and used as a weapon for the summoner's own gain, because in the process of crossing worlds, the summoned is exposed to a large concentration of 𝐫𝐞𝐬𝐴 dense enough to kill any normal human. Only those that bear a strong soul and mind can endure the strain of the journey. And because the summoned was affected by the massive energy, unique skill, and other special abilities are born as a response to their desires, and that's power caught the eyes of the greed human from this world. Naruto frowned from hearing that. Being forced to leave their life and world just to be a slave of the people in this world? What kind of bullshit is that? So wherever world he goes, there are still a corrupted people that was in the light waiting for their opportunity to sink back into the darkness' sweet embrace. Naruto-san called Rimuru when he realized the man has been quiet. Naruto snapped out of his thought and looked back at the slime. Oh, sorry. Just thinking that the summoned one sure had it rough. State the kitsune neutrally. Rimuru just nodded, understood what the blonde implying. So, how you get into this world? Are you a reincarnation too? Questioned the slime rhetorically. Naruto blinked with a tilt of his head, a question mark on his head. Two? Asked him in confusion. Rubbing his head in sheepishness. Rimuru nodded. Yes, I'm also otherworlder, but unlike the others, I was reincarnated. I've died after being stabbed and reborn as a slime, confessed him bashfully. Naruto hummed retaliation. I see. Well, as for me, I'm neither. Rimuru arched his brow in confusion, wondering what he meant. Naruto smiled softly at himself, and then started to tell his story. He told the slime about his world, a world of ninja and the power they hold. He told him about a hidden village of shinobi and how their program worked. He then told him about the war where 5 great nations worked together to defeat the same enemy that was a threat for their world. The Uzumaki told him about the Bijou and what they are and where they coming from. He told the slime about the Jubi and the disaster that the beast has done to the allies. He told him about the death of his precious people. He told the destruction of his world by the hand of Madman. And it isn't enough to open the wound. The tyrant goddess that had been sealed for thousands of years had been released because of it. Rimuru listened to his story, felt depressed and empathy when he heard the man's story. Naruto has gone through a lot to survive the war. The man has lost a lot. His family, his friends, his comrade, his people, his village. Most people would broke down in insanity after losing so much, seeing the dark of the world so much, and yet, Naruto still stood up to fight. By the time Naruto finished the story, when he and Kaguya were already their last straw, and Naruto had used his most strongest jutsu that surely would defeat the goddess, and he was relieved that it did, but he didn't expect that the jutsu would make the dimension to crack, and he was pulled into the great force resulting for him to land into this world. I see. I'm sorry to hearing that, and I'm also sorry for bringing the bad memories, Naruto-san. You have gone through a lot, said Rimuru guiltily. Naruto smiled softly at himself and shook his head. It's okay, Rimuru. I know that you're just curious, and I also realized that how tense you were since you were suspicious of me. So, I try to make you lose up around me a little by telling you my story. Rimuru flinched when he knew that he was caught. He then rubbed his head sheepishly in embarrassment. Naruto chuckled softly at the slime reaction and then sighed. Now, what should I do? Since there was nothing left for me to go back to my previous world, I thought that living in this world wouldn't be a bad idea. But the problem is, I have nowhere to go, stated him conflicted. Hearing this, Rimuru aesthetically chimed in. Then, do you want to live with us? We were in the process on building a village in this forest to live, but we welcome anyone that wanted a place to stay. Naruto looked at Rimuru, too stunned to speak. I'm grateful for the offer, but it is really okay. I don't want to bother you and your people, say him unsurely. Rimuru waved his hands. You won't be a bother at all. My people would surely welcome you in the village if you treat them as an equal. They sure don't mind having you. Besides, if I said to them to treat you well, they would surely obey. Naruto just nodded, accepting the statement. He then smiled gratefully. Well, if you say like that, I accept your offer, Rimuru. Please take a good care of me. The slime eye smiled at the blonde kitsune and nodded. Turning away from the blonde, He jumped to where the village is. Well then, let me show you the way to the village. Naruto smiled and stood up to follow the slime to the village. While they walk, Rimuru used this time to explain to Naruto a few bit about this world, and Naruto listened to him tentatively, while also analyzing the information with Grand Scholar to understand more about the concept. He thanks Rimuru for the information, and Rimuru was glad to be some help. By the time they arrived at the village, it was already noon, and there is a macho man with green skin and silver hair trotted toward them. Rimuru-sama, I'm glad to see you come back safe. I see that you have brought a guest. Say the hobgoblin leader with respectful tone at Rimuru. Rimuru held up his hand and smiled at his loyal servant. Sup, Rigard? This is Naruto. He will be staying with us for now. I hope you welcome him in the village and treat him kindly. Provide him house, clothes, and food, if you must. Rigard raised his brow and looked at the man in front of him. The man had a spiky golden blonde hair and his eyes blue as ocean. A golden fox ears and 9 fluffy tails on his back. But the most thing that had Rigard sweat is how powerful the aura this person emitted on his person. The power this person possessed was 10th time more powerful than Master Rimuru. And to think this person would be staying with them, Rigard don't know how to express this feeling. Rigard nodded in respect. Of course, Rimuru-sama, your command would be fulfilled. Come, Naruto-san. I'll show you around. With that said, Rigard walked ahead, showing the way with Naruto trail behind him. But before he go, he turned to the slime with a smile. Thanks, Rimuru. See you later, my friend. He promptly and grinned at the slime compassionately. Rimuru eyes smiled at that and nodded. You too, Naruto. If you need something from me, you know where to find me. Naruto smiled softly and nodded, and then continued follow Rigard. Rimuru watched his new friend departure to his new home. He was glad to offer a home for Naruto. Because he knew the blonde needed a safe place to rest, the blonde was just came out from the gruesome war. And he know that Naruto don't have a time to grief after the loss of his precious people because he had to keep surviving the war. So Rimuru thought that this is the least that he can give to the war veteran like Naruto, to take a rest after what happened. And he sure hoped that Naruto got the rest he deserved. At night in Naruto's hut, after cleaning himself and changed his tattered clothes to a new one that he got from the dwarf, he sat silently on his bed and pulled out a tri-pronged kunai from his storage seal. The kunai was rusty and dulled, but Naruto don't care. This item is the last thing he had left as a memento of his father. He stared at it sadly and caressed its blade in fondness. He still remembered the words his father said before he disappeared from the land of living. Flashback. Naruto, no matter what the hardship came to you, you can't give up. You have to stand up and keep fighting. I know you can do it. I have so much faith in you. Your mother has so much faith in you. Don't take whatever the enemies gave you and continue to fight and survive. Confessed Minato firmly. Dad! Minato smiled softly at his beloved son. I'm proud of you, Naruto. You have grown into such a fine and strong man that I and your mother wish to see. I love you, Naruto, and I know your mother would also want to say this too. So, I will tell you in her state, we love you, our beloved child, and please survive. Say him with a warm smile, and then disappeared. Flashback end. Naruto eyes watered with flow of tears while sniffing in soft cry, replaying what his father's last words is. Gripping the kunai with trembled hands, he continued to sob. And for the first time in ages, he cried. He cried like he hadn't done since he was a child. This was the true first time he let it all out. The frustration, the grief, the guilt, the pain, everything. He was alone. Next morning, Rimuru, after checking and observing the village advancement, he now were testing his new form, a human form that he got from Shizu after her passing. The place of bluish slime. It was a child that looked like in his 12-year-old with bluish silver hair and golden eyes. The mimic worked smoothly, an actual human body. It's been a while for him to had a human vision and hearing, but he think he could see and hear things better as a slime. It is because of magic sense. Next, he used Ifrit skill body doubles to inspect it on his new feature. Curious of his gender, he checked and was disappointed that he was genderless. A beat later, after testing all the things that he needed to know, he wear his clothes and get out from his hut, and Rigard came to him, giving his report. A few minutes after finishing his report, Rimuru decided to ask something. How was Naruto? Did he comfortable in his stay? questioned him compulsively. Rigurd stared at his master for a moment and then answered, "Yes, Rimuru-sama, as you're commanded. I've prepared everything for him, just like you're asking for," and Naruto-san also accepted the hospitality with gratefulness. But Rimuru tilted his head. "Is there something wrong?" The goblin leader waved his hands in denial. "No, it wasn't anything serious or harmful for the village." "So, you don't have to worry, Rimuru-sama," corrected him hurriedly. Rimuru nodded, accepted the misunderstanding, and let Rigurd to continue. The muscular goblin frowned and scratched his cheek, hesitant if he should report this or not. "I don't know if it's right for me to tell, but I accidentally 𝐫𝐞𝐽 last night when I was about to call him for dinner." "Oh," responded Rimuru grimly, knowing the reason why the blonde acted that way. Rimuru-sama called Rigurd to get his master attention. The slime turned to his subordinate and hummed in response. Rigurd still have a frown on his face. "Did something happen to Naruto-san?" The way he cried, it was like he was in grief. State the goblin. Expression shows concern. Rimuru rubbed the back of his head and turned away. "It's not my place to tell, but the only thing I can tell you that Naruto have gone through a lot. So, you have to treat him well, okay? Make him felt happy and joy for living here with us." State him firmly. Rigurd nodded with a smile. "Of course, Rimuru-sama. Oh, by the way, are you sure you will need no food again today?" Rimuru sighed. "Yeah, I can't taste anything as a slime any." He cut himself from his sentences when he realized something and exclaimed with excitement while cupped his human cheeks. "Ooh, Rigurd, yes, I'm gonna eat with you guys starting today," informed him with joy. "Truly?" questioned the goblin enthusiastically and clapped his hands together. "Then we must prepare a lavish feast tonight." Rimuru nodded elatedly. "Yeah, do that." "Yes, sir," responded Rigurd and bowed at his master before leaving. Naruto were taking a walk around the village after breakfast, admiring the goblin's work on developing the village. He also curious with another race like Hobgoblin, Tempest Wolf, and Dwarf that live this village. He never seen another race before except Animal Summon and a beast like Bijou in his previous world. He greeted them warmly in friendly manner, and everyone in the village were also doing the same. Naruto smiled warmly. Everyone in here were all nice and welcoming, unlike his village that living in shell for fear of being attacked by enemies. But well, that was to be expected when you live in a military village. He had a few idly conversation with Hobgoblin and Goblina when they were taking a break from their work. They all smile at him and treat him nicely, but the most thing that interests him is that their name. He find out that monsters do not normally have names. Naruto questioned himself, if they don't have a name, how they communicate with each other. And his question were answered by Grand Scholar. Apparently, even without names, they can still communicate their thoughts to one another. He was really curious about this naming system and asked Grand Scholar for the information about it. Apparently, naming a monster was quite a big advancement for them. When the monster is named, 𝐫𝐞𝐽 are used to engrave the name in the monster's soul. By this process, the newly named gained in strength and can evolve in some conditions. The Grand Scholar answered him and even show the goblin previous form before they evolve in Hobgoblin after receiving a name from Rimuru. The big gaps between the transformation are surely quite shocking. You wonder if he can use the name system too? The Grand Scholar said that naming would require a lot amongst of 𝐫𝐞𝐽s, and Naruto knew he had a lot. He had tested it with Grand Scholar and find out that his 𝐫𝐞𝐽s were 10th time bigger than Rimuru. He had the Grand Scholar explain to him what the 𝐫𝐞𝐽 is and how to use it. Being a fast learner he is, give him an advance to understand everything quickly and grasp what he need to do in a minute. He also want to start his training to figure out the skills he received from the Voice of World when he came to this world, and he also want to do his shinobi training too. But he have to wait, since he would be visiting Kaijin to ask the dwarf man to create a weapon for him. Chapter 3. When Naruto arrived at the house where the blacksmith worked, he knocked on the door. Rigurd has told him that if he need a weapon or clothes, he can go to their village best artisan. The Goblin Lord has told him where the dwarf named Kaijin live. He opened the door and spotted a short waist beard man were hitting on the heated or evenly and rhythmically with his hammer against the anvil. "Excuse me," he greeted gently. Don't want to disturb the man work, yet want to get his attention. Kaijin stopped from his work and looked up. "Ooh, young man, I heard about you from Rimuru Dana. So, what can I help you with?" Greeted the dwarf back warmly. Naruto smiled softly at the man. "Hello, I'm Uzumaki Naruto. "Are you 𝐫𝐤𝐳-san? I was told that I can request the clothes and weapon from him," said him politely. 𝐫𝐤 nodded with a grin. "That's would be me. Thought, I'm specialist in weapon. If you want clothes, 𝐫𝐤 can help you with that." 𝐫𝐤, he is the one that handle all the clothes with his brother Dord, informed 𝐫𝐤 casually. Naruto nodded curtly in understand. 𝐫𝐤 crossed his arms while looking at the young man in front of him with interest. While he had seen a different type of lycanthrope before, he never seen someone so beautiful like this one. A silky golden blonde hair, a tamed fluffy fox ears, a fair tanned skin, a shimmering blue eyes that shining like a piece of precious jewel, a 3 adorable whiskers mark on both of his cheeks, a lean yet well-built body, and 9 golden fluffy tails on his back. The young man facial are one thing, but the 9 tails with him are quite unique. He never seen a lycanthrope with multiple tails before. "Well then, what kind of weapon would you like me to make?" asked Blacksmith curiously. "Would it be okay if I requested a long sword in 𝐾𝐽?" asked the blonde hesitantly. "𝐾𝐽? The one that looked like a black dagger, with a handle wrapped in bandages and a ring-like pommel? The one that with ninja occupation always use?" questioned 𝐫𝐤 neutrally. Naruto nodded in confirmation. 𝐫𝐤 grinned and nodded. "Sure, leave that to me. Anything else?" The blonde kitsune nodded again and take out a katana from his storage seal, shocking 𝐫𝐤 by the weapon's sudden appearance. The katana has a black blade with a purple line on the middle, the handle also black, and there is a violet diamond on the pointer of the blade. While the katana is beautiful, the blade was rusty and dull. This is what Naruto's katana looks like. 𝐫𝐤 looked at the katana with awe and amazement. He never seen the katana this beautiful before. He wondered what the material were made off. It's probably from unknown material that he didn't know about. Naruto presented the katana to 𝐫𝐤 with troubled face. "Can you sharp this for me?" asked the blonde softly and passed the katana in 𝐫𝐤's hands. The blacksmith inspected it curiously. He examined the katana with a great interest and looked up at the blonde. "Where do you get this katana from? I never seen a material that can manipulate a blade quite like this," remarked 𝐫𝐤 in pique. Naruto tilted his head. "It was an heirloom from my mother. The material was probably from my homeland." 𝐫𝐤 nodded with a hum. "I see. Well then, let me get this done and you can have it back by then. While you wait, you can have a seat at the stool over there." Naruto nodded curtly and took his seat while he waited for his katana. Time skipped. By the time his katana was fixes, it already noon. He then meet with 𝐫𝐤 and request the clothes he wanted. He even make a few design that fit with his shinobi attire. After saying his bye to the dwarf, he were about to go to the dining room, when suddenly he was approached by Rigard. "Naruto-san, we need your presence at the entrance gate. There's a monsters want to meet you," state the Goblin Lord apprehensively. Naruto blinked unexpectedly. "Monsters? What kind of monsters?" questioned him puzzledly. "A cryptid, sir," replied Rigard composedly. Naruto arched his brow. "What kind of monster is cryptid?" thought him perplexedly. Answer: Cryptid is a mythical beast tribe with an appearance of some sort of magic beast, ranging from mammals like foxes and rabbits to insects like beetles and wasps. They usually live on the southwest and northwest in the forest. Cryptid are a race of demi-spiritual monsters that originate from another dimension, born from the magicules of the world-destroying dragon, 𝐫𝐽𝐵. Naruto internally hummed at the information we're given and turned to the muscular goblin. "What type of cryptids are they?" he asked curiously. "Elemental foxes, sir," replied Rigard indefinitely. Naruto nodded. "Show me to them." Rigard nodded and hurriedly showed the blonde kitsune to where the monsters are. When they arrive, Naruto saw a group of foxes that was the size of wolf gathered by the guards. The foxes looked calm and composed while the guard looked agitated and weary. Curious of what the cryptid want with him, he approached the group. "What's going on here?" The guards and the foxes turned to him. He saw the guards sighed in relief at his arrival, while the fox's eyes lit up with awe and admiration. Naruto raised an eyebrow, wondered what's make them acted that way. One of the foxes with black coat that has red tips at the end of his fur with golden eyes and 4 tails walked forward. Naruto stared at it in pique. He realized that this fox is most biggest between the others. When the fox were standing in front of him, it then bowed at the blonde, shocking everyone that watching. "It's an honor to meet you, my Eve. I'm the leader of Elemental Fox's tribe. We're elated to present myself to you, the Kyuubi Kitsune, our tribe guardian," stated the Black Fox formally. Naruto and the villagers' eyes widened and flabbergasted. They didn't believe what they heard. Especially Naruto, the one that being subjected with. After finally getting back from his sense, he waved his hands frantically. Hold on. Eve, your guardian? What are you talking about? Retorted him dazedly. Answer. Eve are known as Sacred Beast, or also known as Divine Beast. A legendary type of beast that can manifest in the world once every few decades or centuries. This sacred beast is a guardian and protector of mammal monsters like elemental foxes, dire wolf, and 𝐸𝐸𝐴, and have the right to be their protector and ruler. Hearing this from the Grand Scholar, Naruto internally gasped. What? Divine Beast? But is there anything to do with me being 𝐫𝐞𝐽? Answer. Since 𝐫𝐞𝐽 was close to Divine Beast like 𝐫𝐞, and the great amount of magicules that the beast possess can bypass the storm dragon Veldora. The 𝐫𝐞𝐽 can also be classified as legendary beast. Naruto internally groaned at the information that the Grand Scholar has given to him. He felt like playing a leader after what happened to the fate of his world. He have seen so much darkness in his life that he don't have the right to lead others and be their light. He sighed and looked at the Black Fox in front of him. Look, I'm not your Eve or guardian or anything that relate to me to be your leader. Okay? If you want to live under the protection of the stronger one, you have to talk to the leader of this village, stated the former Kage firmly. The Black Fox blinked dazedly. But my Eve, you are our guardian. I can felt your majestic presence in you, and it also had led to us here to ask for your protection, remarked the fox leader. Naruto left. I twitched in irritation, knowing that even he denying his status as their guardian and protector, they would surely keep persisting for him to take them in. Rigard? What are you guys gathering around here? A familiar voice spoke, jolting Naruto and the others. They turned and saw Ranga with 6 ogres behind the alpha. On top of the wolf is bluish slime of Rimuru. Rimuru caught the sight of Naruto and then spotted a group of colorful foxes being surrounded by the guards. Rimuru-sama, exclaimed Rigard elatedly upon seeing his master. The slime arched his brow. What actually going on here? At night, when the villagers having a feast, the goblin were surround Rimuru in nervousness while the slime waiting for the meat to cook. When it cooked, Rimuru in human form picked it up and took his first bite. When the taste of meat consumed his mouth, Rimuru started to shake, making his goblin subordinate more nervous than before. Listen, is it not to your taste? Spoke Rigard and Rigor apprehensively. Whoa, that's so good, remarked Rimuru suddenly after tasting the meat that was prepared by the chef. A silent beat later, after hearing the respond, the goblin exclaimed in delight and started enjoying their own meal while having fun partying for the night. Rimuru took another stick of meat that was done cooked with a huge smile on his face. This is bliss. I didn't have a sense of taste in my slime form. This is the first time I've tasted food since I came to this world. It's so great to be alive. While on other side, Naruto were enjoying his food, and he wasn't alone. Besides him are Rigard, Rigor, 𝐫𝐸𝐵, 3 from Ogre's tribe, and 2 from Elemental Foxes. 𝐫𝐸𝐵 choked on his drink after hearing the explanation from Red Ogre. The orcs attacked the ogres? That can't be, stated him in disbelief. The Red Ogre with 2 black horns on his forehead looked at 𝐫𝐸𝐵 stoically. It's the truth. 𝐫𝐸𝐵 turned to Rigard. Can such a thing really happen? Questioned the dwarf. The Goblin Lord only shook his head. I don't know. Is it that strange? Asked Naruto, because he honestly didn't know about this situation. 𝐫𝐸𝐵 turned to him. Of course it is. Ogres are immeasurably stronger than orcs. That such a weak race would attack them is unthinkable, explained him wearily. Nevertheless, they did come. They attacked our village out of nowhere. They carried weapons and war armor, and their overwhelming numbers filled the entire forest. Those detestable pigs overran our village, state the Red Ogre with so much rage and hatred. Orcs wearing armor? Asked 𝐫𝐸𝐵 perplexedly. The Red Ogre nodded. Yes, the same type of full-plate mail that humans wear, replied a monotone. 𝐫𝐸𝐵 hummed and thought. That must mean it's likely the orcs are not working alone, say Rigard, finishing the dwarf sentences. Orcs could never round up all that valuable armor themselves, concluded 𝐫𝐸𝐵, eyes narrowed and suspicious. Exactly. Among them was a masked magen. A masked magen? The Red Ogre grit his teeth in rage, remembering the incident. It was a high-level magen. I'm certain of it, stated him furiously. And you fought Rimuru-sama because you had mistaken him for this masked magen, concluded Rigurd rationally. The Red Ogre nodded in confirmation. Naruto narrowed his eyes, finally grasped the situation, and it didn't sound really good. Moreover, he can felt the rage and hatred from the Red Ogre. And there is no doubt that the Red Ogre were thinking about avenging his tribe death. That's mean, there is the possibility that the orcs have sided with one of the demon lords, pointed Rigurd uneasily. A demon lord? Questioned Kaijin in thought. But why a demon lord? Asked Rigurd apprehensively. I don't know. The only thing I'm sure of is that only 6 of my 300 brethren remain alive, remarked the Red Ogre grimly. Then the Black Fox spoke next, and the same fate happened to our hut. The orcs suddenly intrude our home and slay our tribe without giving a second thought. Using my shadow manipulation skills, I managed to hide my brethren in my shadow while I'd run to the safety. And only 100 of my 1,000 pack remain alive. Hearing this, Naruto and the others have a frown marring on their expression. To think the situation was this big, to have 2 tribe to be a victim from orcs for a week, this situation was surely can't be ignored. I see. No wonder you're upset, spoke the voice, breaking the silence. The voice came from Rimuru, and they turned and saw Rimuru with human form walked toward them leisurely. Have you had enough meat, Rimuru-dano? Asked the Red Ogre neutrally. Rimuru leaned himself on a tree. I'm taking a break. Your little sister's really something. Compliment Rimuru suddenly and looked at where the pink ogre is, that being surrounded by goblinas. The Red Ogre blinked and also turned to where his little sister is. She knows a lot about medicinal and cooking herbs. The goblins took to her immediately. Praised Rimuru neutrally. She was a sheltered child. She must be happy that they're relying on her. Promptly state the Red Ogre. Rimuru glanced back at the Red Ogre. So, what are you guys going to do now? Asked him leisurely. What do you mean? Asked the Red Ogre back in confusion. I mean your plans for the future. Whether you rebuild your village or relocate to another area, the fate of your comrades is depending on your leadership, right? Pointed Rimuru. That's easy. We will build our strength and take them on again. State the Red Ogre confidently. Do you know where to find them? Asked Rimuru again in point. The Red Ogre startled, realizing that he didn't think that far and cover his mistake by innocently drank his drink. Rimuru and the others saw this, sweat drop. He doesn't have a plan at all. Thought Rimuru and Naruto at the same time. Well, I have a suggestion. Do you guys have any interest in being my subordinates? Proposed Rimuru neutrally. The 3 ogre and 2 foxes were shocked when they hearing this. Subordinates? Questioned both the Red Ogre and the Black Fox. Of course, all I can pay you is guaranteed food, shelter, and clothing. You need a home base, right? State Rimuru naturally. But that would involve your whole village in our revenge, said the Red Ogre warily. Well, I'm not just offering this as a favor to you guys. You said thousands of armed orcs attacked you, right? And there might be a demon lord pulling the strings, remarked Rimuru anxiously. The orcs may be seeking dominion over the great forest of Jura. Rigurd stopped his statement. And that's mean this town isn't completely safe either. Naruto finished his statement and drank his drink. Rimuru nodded, agreeing with Naruto, which is why adding as many to our numbers as possible would benefit us. Plus, if anything happened to you guys, I'd fight with you. I'll never abandon a friend. Naruto smiled softly at his friend's last statement, remembering his own words when he was still young and a genin. The Red Ogre was quiet, thinking of the propose. I see. Let me give it some thought. Rimuru nodded. Sure. Take all the time you need to think about it. Say him, and then turn to the 2 foxes beside the Red Ogre. What about you, Foxan? The Black Fox looked at him and glanced at Naruto. The blonde eye twitched, already knowing where would this going. I'm sorry if this sound rude, Rimuru-dano, but would it be possible for us elemental foxes being Naruto-sama subordinates? Rimuru blinked and stunned. So do the others that hearing the reclaimed. Being Naruto subordinate? I don't mind, but why? Questioned the bluish hair boy. Naruto sighed and stared at the foxes sharply. Is this about me being an Eve or whatever you guys calling me with? You guys sure are stubborn. State the blonde, unamused. Rimuru blinked again, perplexedly. Eve? He questioned himself, but was listened and Rigurd, and the fox explained to him what happened a few hours ago. How the elemental fox's hut was attacked by the orcs' army and wandered around the forest after the invasion of the orcs, and felt the presence of their deity guardian and came here to meet him and ask for his protection, while the great sage explained to him what exactly 𝐸𝐸 is. After hearing the explanation from the great sage, Rimuru was in better words stunned and shocked to know about this. To think Naruto have become a legend beast upon arriving onto this world and surpassing Veldora in power. What a terrifying person Naruto is. I see. Rimuru glanced at Naruto. What do you think, Naruto? Asked him curiously. Naruto sighed and drank his drink neutrally. Honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm fit to be a leader after. The blonde stopped his sentence, voice softened in sadness. Rimuru frowned, knowing what the blonde mean, while the others also frowned, even thought they were clueless of what he's implying. Naruto shook his head, clearing the bad memories from his thought, and turned to the two foxes and saw their hopeful eyes looking at him. The blonde sighed. He really can't refuse with those eyes. All right, I'll take you in. The fox's eyes lit up in delight, happy by the answer. Naruto's eyes softened when seeing them happy, hand on his chin in thought. He then turned to Rimuru. Rimuru, can I talk to you for a few minutes? Rimuru looked at him curiously and nodded. The two then leave the group. Chapter 4. When the two finally at the isolate place, Rimuru gazed at Naruto. So, what do you want to talk about? Naruto smiled. It was about the service I would like to provide in this village. It didn't felt right for me to stay around without providing my service toward the village. Moreover, I would be getting my own subordinate and had them stay here too. So, I was thinking, it is okay. I can provide an ANBU/ninja unit for the village. Scouting, infiltration, intelligent, assassination, spy, messenger, frontline fighter, tracker, and a medic. Anything that relate with military power but undercover. I will have the foxes in the unit if they like to join, and they will go under my training to see if they qualified in the ninja unit. It's also open to your subordinate if they would like to join, but not after passing my test for the qualification. For the mission, only the classified and important mission would be under your command and approval. What do you think? Suggested the blonde neutrally. Rimuru have his hand on his chin and thought. It's a good idea. It would also give Naruto something to do, and he also would like to see how Naruto leading the military, since Naruto have said to him that he was former leader of his military village. And he's sure that Naruto is a good leader for his village. It just fate wasn't on his side to have the blonde to lead for long. Think about leadership. Rimuru suddenly got an idea. The slime boy then nodded. I think it's a good idea. I approve of that. But I have a proposition. Would it be okay for me to ask you to be my advisor and partner? Naruto blinked dazedly and frowned. You want me to be your advisor and partner? Questioned the blonde Kitsune perplexedly. Rimuru nodded. Yes, since you have a leading experience and known what should to look at. I thought getting the advice for the experience would help me on how to run the village better, including politics, since I'm sure we would be in contact with other country for political purpose. Naruto closed his eyes and thought, hand on his chin. That wasn't bad proposal. That way he have his purpose of keep loyal and protect this village. Moreover, he indebted to Rimuru for saving his life and give him a new home. And the slime haven't done nothing but being nice to him so far. So, to pay back his generosity, Naruto decided to protect everything Rimuru cherished, including this village. Decided of his decision, Naruto opened his eyes to look at the golden eyes of Rimuru. He then smiled softly and nodded. I'll accept your proposal. Then, Rimuru. He held his hand for Rimuru, and the bluish boy accepted the hand without hesitation. It was an honor to work with you, Rimuru. Hope everything worked well together between us. The next morning, both Naruto and Rimuru was visited by they would be subordinate at their own hut. Naruto looked at all the foxes in front of him and nodded firmly. As a promise to make you guys my subordinate. I would like to give you names to prove you're my subordinates. The foxes gasped and eyes widened. Really, Naruto-sama? Naruto nodded. Yeah, it's hard to call each of you if you don't have a name. Besides, I need you guys to help me in my shinobi unit, remarked him casually. Hearing this, all the foxes exclaimed in enthusiastic joy. Thank you, Naruto-sama. We would gladly accept the name you will give. Naruto nodded and turned to Rigor that just came into his hut. Rigor, great timing. Can you be a witness for this naming ritual? It's easier to explain to Rimuru and the others when this guy suddenly started to evolve. Explain the blonde to the hobgoblin neutrally. Rigor smiled and nodded. "Sure, Naruto-sama," replied the goblin simply and took his position beside the entrance door. Naruto smiled. "Thanks, Rigor. Then, let's start first with the leader." The Black Fox presented himself in front. He's soon to be master. Nervous and also excitement shows on his expression. Naruto gazed and the Black Fox in front of him while thinking of suitable name for him. "Your name would be Izumi." The Black Fox now named. Izumi suddenly surrounded by glowing thread, covering every bit of his body after receiving a name. When the glow stopped, instead of foxes, standing in front of them is an attractive young man in his 20s with black hair that had a red tips on the end and golden eyes. He had 2 fox's ears that matched his black hair on top of his head and 4 black fluffy tails on his back, and a well-built body with a fair skin. But the thing that disturbing him is that the man was naked. The female foxes that saw this stared at the man with lustful eyes and drool at the sight of Izumi's six-pack, while the males looked away, covering their eyes from the sight, and Naruto hurriedly threw his blanket at his subordinate to cover his naked form. The blonde then turned to Rigor sheepishly. "I think we would need a lot of clothes if this is going to keep happening." Rigor nodded at him in agreement. "I will go requesting a coat from 𝐫𝐸𝐴𝐵 for this, then," said the hobgoblin and left the hut. Naruto nodded and looked at the fox's new form intently. He can felt a large amount of 𝐫𝐸𝐴𝐵 flowing on his subordinate. Report: the elemental foxes that was being named as Izumi have evolved into Kitsune, a new type monster that was born from the chakra the individual Naruto possessed. "Oh, does that mean they have an ability to use chakra?" Answer: there is a possibility. Then he will be having a new training regime to think of for them when all this settle. The man then bowed at his master. "Thanks you, my master." Naruto nodded, and when Rigor came back with a lot of coats in his hand and gave it to the blonde, Naruto thanks him and moved to the next fox to another after giving each of them names. For Rimuru part, he looked at the red ogre in front of him. "Have you decided?" asked him naturally. "The ogres are a warring clan. We aren't against taking to the battlefield in service to another. If our master is strong, we are all the more pleased to serve them," remarked the red ogre monotone. Rimuru nodded firmly. "Can our contract last only until we take out the orc's leader?" asked the red ogre. "You can do whatever you want after that. You can stay and help us build a nation, or you can go on your way," replied Rimuru sincerely. The red ogre exhaled and inhale in breath and then kneel and bowed. "I would like to accept the offer you presented last night. We will hereby serve under you," state the red ogre firmly. Rimuru nodded. "Good." Gazing at timid ogre in front of him, Rimuru were thinking, "I should have given more consideration to how he feels. I'm sure all he wants is to avenge his people now, even if it gets him killed. He's making this decision as a leader who's had to accept his own weakness." Though the slime, changing into his human form, he commanded for the ogre to lift his head. The red ogre obeyed and do what he was told to. Rimuru smiled. "You're all accepted. Call in the others," commanded him neutrally. The red ogre hung his head firmly. "Yes, sir," replied him and left to do his task. "All I can do is make sure he won't regret that decision," thought Rimuru again. Time skipped. When all the ogre were presented in front of him with Rigord as a witness, Rimuru looked at all the ogres in front of him pleasantly. "I'll give you names to prove you're my subordinates." The 6 ogres gasped with wide eyes. "All of us?" spoke the red in disbelief. Rimuru tilted his head. "Well, having no name makes things tough, doesn't it? But please wait. Giving a name comes with great risks. And to name such superior monsters," spoke the pink ogre warily. "It's fine, really. Don't worry about it," said Rimuru in assurance. "But," voiced the pink ogre in concern, "the risk is me using too many 𝐫𝐸𝐴𝐵 and falling asleep, right? There's only 6 of them this time, so it'll be fine," thought Rimuru confidently. Or do you just not want me to name you?" questioned Rimuru casually. "That isn't." The pink ogre tried to reason, but was stopped. "We have no complaints." The red ogre cut his little sister's speech. "Brother," protested the pink ogre, but was ignored by her brother. "We gratefully accept your names," remarked the red ogre composedly. "If this is the young master's will, we accept," spoke the elder ogre calmly. Rimuru nodded pleasantly. "Okay, let's get started," stayed him and flopped himself from his bed and approached the 6 ogres in front of him. "You are." Naruto walked into Rimuru's hut with Izumi and Tomo. a silver-haired attractive young kitsune following beside him after naming all of the foxes to represent the kitsune evolved to his friend. Of course, after the two was given a clothes for them to wear. Won't have them walked around in coats, covering their body, won't they? When he arrived and knocked on the slime's hut wall and stepped inside, he saw the 6 ogres in the room with Rigard that frantic over a melted Rimuru. The blonde kitsune arched his brow and pointed at Rimuru. "What's wrong with him?" Asked him casually and looked at the ogres for the answer, since he knew that Rigard would be too busy worrying over his master. It was a pink ogre that answered his question. "Rimuru-sama has bestowed us a name and lost quite amount of his 𝐫𝐞𝐻𝐿s from naming us a superior monster, and thus resulting for his body to shut down and in sleeping mode," explained the pink ogre. Naruto hummed in understand. "I'm guessing he don't know that when naming a superior monster would take a lot more 𝐫𝐞𝐻𝐿s than the other monsters that was below their class. He should be more careful when doing that," state the blonde naturally while shaking his head. The pink ogre, 𝐲𝐢𝐳𝐵 and Tomo nodded, agree at his statement while the others agreed in silence. Naruto then glanced at the ogres with a small grin. "Well then, how about introduction? I was about to introduce this two of their evolution to Rimuru and discuss about the plan on starting an ANBU/ninja unit in few days, but he was in that state. So, I have to postpone of that when he wake up." This make the blue ogre perk up slightly and quickly replied, "Naruto-sama, I would be willing to be a part of this ninja unit if you were to start one. Stealth and infiltration are my best skills," he said. Naruto turned to him and stared at him for a few seconds. After all, this guy was claiming to be a ninja. It was something Naruto prided himself on being, even if it wasn't obvious to most. How else could he have stolen the Forbidden Scroll at 12? Naruto tilted his head. "I guess I don't mind having one member that was already skilled. What's your name?" "𝐸, sir," replied 𝐸 composedly. Naruto nodded. "𝐸, I'm glad to have you in unit. But since you are Rimuru's subordinate, you have to ask his permission first and have him approve for you work with me. Rimuru already had me to work with him as his partner and advisor. So, everything that he requested would be our mission to fulfill. Think of yourself as a captain that works underneath me. Reports go to me before you send them to Rimuru. Are you okay with that? If we're doing this, we do it correctly." 𝐸 was undeterred and nodded curtly in understanding, straightening his pose when he heard the commanding voice the blonde kitsune has emitted. It sounded like a true leader commanding his people with a great charisma. Not only him got affected by the blonde voice, the others also straightened when they hear it. And 𝐸 don't mind on having this kind of leader, having him in command. Naruto nodded pleasant and turned others. "So, introduction?" And with that statement, the ogres and kitsunes introduced themselves. And with that, Naruto started to know the ogres' names. The pink ogre named Shuna, while her brother named Benimaru. There is 𝐸, a blue ogre, a purple ogre with big tits named Cheyenne, an elderly ogre named Hikaru, and the last ogre with giant body named Kirobe. 𝐸𝐳𝐵 and Tomo also introduced themselves to the ogres as the representative of their tribe that just evolved into kitsune. The ogres was shocked to know the foxes have evolved in a second after they received the name. This is surely proof that Naruto is strong being that shouldn't be provoked with, and there is a chances that the blonde is more powerful than their master Rimuru. "What actually are you, Naruto-sama?" questioned Benimaru. Naruto blinked dazedly at the unexpected question. "Me? I'm Uzumaki Naruto, one of the people that live in this village and a friend of Rimuru. And also, an otherworlder," he straightforwardly said with natural expression on his face. The ogres, the two of his subordinate and Rigard eyes widened in shock when they heard his last sentences, staring at Naruto in shocked and bewilderment. Chapter 5. After Naruto revealed the secret that he was an otherworlder, he left the hut, didn't have an intention on telling them his story or sharing his bad past to them. He decided to have only Rimuru to know his dark past because he didn't feel really like going back to his memories. A memories that was so dark and gloomy that it would make people thrown up their meal when they see it for themselves and curled in fear of seeing that nightmare again. He left telling them that he would be out training the kitsune for their new training regime. After all, he would be needing them in ninja unit and serve their protection for the village. 𝐸𝐳𝐵 and Tomo followed after him, thrilled to show their master what they capable of and show him their most loyalty. 3 days later, only darkness that Rimuru seen. At that time, he was thinking, are his dead? Cheyenne, it's time to switch places. He then suddenly heard the soft and sweet voice of a girl near him, like she was speaking to someone. "Oh no, princess. I will look after Rimuru-sama. Please get some rest." Another voice replied and was heard by Rimuru again. "Really, Shine?" A soft voice spoke again in resignation. "Echa." Rimuru, with his slime body, looks like we're opening his eyes and didn't realize he was carried by the purple ogre. Both of the girls with different colored hair noticed that Rimuru had awake, smiled happily. "Rimuru-sama, good morning." The slime, named Rimuru, gazed at the two, looked confused. "Oh, who are you again?" he asked. But then he felt like he remembered something. "Wait, my memory's a little fuzzy, but I think I was about to name the ogres when..." Rimuru stopped from his thought when a voice spoke to him. "Have you awakened, Rimuru-sama?" The slime then turned to the voice in front of him. He caught the sight of a young man with red hair, with 2 black horns on his forehead. "You're the young master of the ogres, right?" State Rimuru unsurely. The man then answered firmly, "Correct. I have evolved into a 𝐫𝐞𝐽, and I have assumed the name you gave me, Rimuru," said Rimuru respectfully. With that statement, Rimuru then remembered what truly happened. "Oh, I remember now. I went into sleep mode the moment I named him. Wait, what did he say? 𝐫𝐞𝐽? Not ogre." Report. 𝐫𝐞𝐽 refers to a race of being uncommonly born of ogres. His body looks a little smaller. The amount of 𝐫𝐞𝐽𝐿s in him has exploded, though. Is this a repeat of the rigid shock? This means he evolved from an ogre to a 𝐫𝐞𝐽, right? Thought him. "Rimuru-sama, I am Shuna. I'm so glad to see that you've awakened," spoke the girl with pink hair next and caressed Rimuru's side cheek in fondness, making Rimuru blush pleasantly. "Shuna, right, she's the ogre princess. She was already cute, but she's even prettier now," thought the slime pleasantly, and then turned to one that lay him on her lap. "I am Shine. I'm very fond of the name you gave me, Rimuru-sama," spoke the 𝐫𝐞𝐽 girl. "This busted beauty is Shine?" She looked less wild and more intelligent now. Joke Rimuru in his mind. "And the one behind Rimuru is the old man who cut off my arm. Hakuru, right?" remarked the slime teasingly. The old man laughed in humor. Such a mean-spirited remark. "It was I who felt shocked when you instantly regenerated your arm. He looks a lot younger now. Is that a result of his evolution to 𝐫𝐞𝐽?" questioned Rimuru in his thought. He then turned to 𝐫𝐞𝐽 with blue hair. "And I think you have given me the name Sui. I am glad to see that have recovered, Rimuru-sama," state the 𝐫𝐞𝐽 stoically in respectfulness. "Thanks," replied Rimuru, and sweat dropped at the 𝐫𝐞𝐽 emotionless statement. Giving a name to a superior monster consumes an equally large amount of 𝐫𝐞𝐽𝐿s, state the great sage robotically. In other words, naming just 6 of them drained almost all my 𝐫𝐿s? I wish you'd told me that sooner," thought Rimuru regretfully. "Where's the 6th one?" "Oh, he's been spending a lot of time at Kaijin's workshop," informed Rimuru. "I heard Rimuru-sama has awakened." A distant voice spoken from outside of the camp. "Ah, there he is," informed Rigard. Remembering how the last one looked like before, he was curious how the change. "Rimuru-sama." The slime looked up and saw another 𝐫𝐽 walked in. "I'm so glad you're well," said the 𝐫𝐽, and Rimuru inwardly exclaimed in impression. "You recognize me, right? I am 𝐫𝐿𝐼𝐵. Greet the last 𝐫𝐽. He looks like an ordinary middle-aged guy. So after a hot guy, a cute girl, a babe, a dignified gray, and another hot guy, he just a middle-aged guy. What a relief," thought Rimuru in humor. "I hope we'll be good friends, 𝐫𝐿𝐼𝐵," chirped the slime delightfully, and 𝐫𝐿𝐼𝐵 nodded. "Sure," replied him casually. "And then, is there anything else you guys want to talk about?" Rimuru asked. Shine was the one who answered him. "We were wondering if there were any jobs you would have us do," she asked kindly. Rimuru seemed to gain a thinking expression on his slime face. "What do you guys do best?" "I can decide from there," Rimuru asked curiously. If he knew what they were good at, then it would make it simpler to give jobs that fit their strengths. Shine answered first again. "I'm good at helping with either guarding or assisting others. I can fight, but I wouldn't be good as a leader." "Could I act as your assistant, Rimuru-sama?" she asked innocently. Rimuru could have sworn he saw Shuna gain an annoyed expression for half a second, but thought he was imagining things. What would I even need an assistant for?" Rimuru asked confused. Rimuru didn't do much of anything. What would he need assistance with? "I could organize your schedule for the day, and if you ever need help physically, then I would be there. Plus, I could carry you around so you don't have to walk everywhere." She spoke passionately. Those were some very basic things that he could do himself already. Being carried around by someone else just seemed petty in his eyes, but 𝐸𝐸 seemed really into it. Sure, I guess. How about anyone else? Rimuru asked and looked at others. 𝐸𝐸 spoke next, a bit eager in his tone. I'm good at stealth and infiltration, and would like to join Naruto-sama ninja unit, if you allowed me, Rimuru-sama, he said. Rimuru stared at him for a few seconds, and then nodded. I wouldn't mind you being a part of it. You have to talk to Naruto about joining Thought. After all, he was the leader of the unit, and you would be working underneath him, commanded the slime neutrally. Actually, Rimuru-sama, I already asked him, and he said that I can join if I got your permission first since I'm your subordinate, informed 𝐸𝐸 composedly. Rimuru's sweat dropped. Yeah, he actually did? This guy sure moved fast. Though I'm totally impressed. I see. Well then, I'll give the permission for you to join. Make sure you work hard under Naruto. Okay, said Rimuru firmly. 𝐸𝐸 was undeterred and nodded in understanding. Rimuru then, turning the other four in the room, Hikaru, Shuna, Benimaru, and 𝐸𝐸. What would you like to do? It took them a few seconds to answer. Hikaru answered first. I had heard some young goblins that were interested in swordsmanship. I will be their sensei and set them on the correct path, Hikaru said wisely. There was an edge of danger behind his tone. Rimuru shivered slightly. What about you, Benimaru? Rimuru asked next. Shuna and 𝐸𝐸 seemed to be thinking still, while Benimaru looked like he made up his mind. I wish to lead some kind of force in a military unit. Battling is something I specialize in and would excel at, Benimaru said with respect. Rimuru nodded his head. We don't have any kind of military forces at the moment, so for right now, you'll be considering our one-man army. How's that sound, he proposed. Benimaru just smirked and nodded in agreement. Shuna spoke next. Since someone took up being your assistant, I will be the village's clothes sewer. I'd like to be in charge of uniforms and things of the sort. It is something I take pride in being able to do. I could also assist in the kitchen if we ever need it, but otherwise, I'll working on clothing and things similar to that, said Shuna with an annoyed tone at the beginning. Rimuru either ignored or didn't notice the tone and kept going. What about you, 𝐸𝐸? The middle-aged 𝐫𝐸𝐵 just shrugged his shoulders. Rimuru took a few seconds to think before thinking of something. Would you like to work with the dwarves and the blacksmith? 𝐸𝐸𝐵 seemed to perk up and nodded his head. Great, I'm sure they'll appreciate the help, chirped Rimuru pleasantly. With Naruto was in training ground with 5 𝐫𝐞𝐴. This 5 was chosen by him to his first team in unit. There was consistent of Tomo, Toru a light brown-haired male 𝐫𝐶, Iris a red-haired female 𝐫𝐶, another female 𝐫𝐶 Azalea with a blue-haired, and lastly Akane a pink-haired male 𝐫𝐶. Izumi decided to become his assistant on handling his side paperwork, but he also was an exception in training. Naruto need as much strong force in his unit. He don't want his subordinate to always relay on him too much and can't handle the situation on their own.
Thanks for watching. The next part will be dropping tomorrow. Stay tuned.